Guess when we're going. Order!
I apologize. O God, may your spirit and guidance be in us as we work for the benefit of all our people, for peace and justice in our land, and for our constant recognition of the dignity and aspiration of those who we serve. Amen. Before we get started, I'd like to recognize one of my favorite little guys, Finnegan Goslin, who I got to have supper with at, it was lunch at the
Finnegan Goslin tabreit khayil lang narit ka tapta khayrok mga habang nekluni kuyanak.
Members, welcome to the house. Although we did not meet last week.
Khay kafit mga habang yakluhi kuyanak park. Habang naktuit hibun niyakluta tabra naku niyakluhi nunaput bani ikakaklu mani. Inyay tabra ukot habang naktuit tabra ikayaw nakirita tayo na kanak habang naktuit mani nunapting niptak habang naklung ilahaklut ilihaktot nitakat maki ikayaw naktit. Ukot tabra maka mauga mani akapi rot nitakat youth parliament ning tayo gay tapkot nitakat akapi rot tabra nalaktual nakigate March 1st 2024 mitabra akapi niyak tutakat. Ukot habak mani igluk bakpagmi tabra naipik to nakigay type kot nutakat infrastructure mika tabra habak tok type kot hangarok pang tabra ikayuy naktor tap tayo na pikigin niya kay tapkot kanok ikayo naklugit tabra kanok habang naktor tuwangarok pangnik energy.
NWT as part of its annual reporting for the 3 strategies guiding action on climate change and the territories.
Sumilikayor tapkod nautsiak simayatam naukakdiksak ilisaksak tapkod asin temen tapkod okaktay tikatak sa sabak sa tuna 5 min nganin aulatat tasaba asin Inuvialuktun itkililu sabak sa itamat sa siwunyotik sa itsannayak simagait. Takunakton ngok tasaba tapkuat kabamapta mani maliktak sa tamat kuat nunapta ikayutik sait tamat muna allangok tataut allangok man nunapting ni aulajutik sait. Tas ba akititok taimanna ikayutaw ni arman nunalapting ni sumilaka. Tas betap kuan ngo ikayute immati khangma sibun nerotik sait nutangok taksimagait aulap kai yuat. Tas ba asin tap ko na igor inubing mione sibun mo tao ni ang matamanna ingnaktun Power Corporation kunni sabaksat. Tasa ba tamanna sibun mon aula yok tamanna tutkiksak simagat. Tasa ba asin tap ko nga nalunayak tat sibun mon sabagbik sangat sibun niyakotik sa takunayok takumanak siblugo. Tas bakas itap kuat ingnaktutay sumilika taw ng atat panganunapting na sa kinang min aulam mataman na alanguta nunapta sibun motik sangat ilisimagata magkumanga nunamlo suangatanin sa kinang blusuminlikatat panga. Tas baas tap kuat Pechakomi Enterprise Milo, Hair River Milo, Double Junction, and Yellowknife Milo tap kuat. Tam na kaksamayad aulakinaya 2024 migo. Tas buk nunapting ni NWT mi kuliak sa magait. Teman na tap kuat. Teman na ikayutaw ni ang matamani nunapting ni NWT mi nunapta ang alajutik site ikayutik site sumulika sa wapting ni iglupting ni linis aulap kayo umiktap kuno na atok taksanikon. Tas pa
A strategy that guides our approach. To be adaptive
too fast.
Structure and Climate Change and Environment and Climate Change undertook a joint review of the energy strategy and climate change strategic framework in 2023. With the input from Indigenous governments, Indigenous organizations, the public, stakeholders, and our partners, we have an exciting opportunity to shape the future of our energy landscape. Of what we heard report from our engagement with these parties will be published in March of 2024. Mr. Speaker, our future energy and climate plans need to be ambitious, effective, and reasonable. Looking ahead, I'm confident we can achieve the vision of the energy strategy with governments, residences, and businesses working together. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister of Infrastructures. Minister's statement. Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Kakilang niya tam na alang tok hilakput. Ukot ikakaklugo nunapting ni tabra tam na kanok unak kipelak tok nunakput kanok alang power ni climate change migtayo gatam na kanok alang power tok hilakput. Ukot kabamat kanok leka about tayo galagat 132 tap kot habang nat kanok leka tau chikun habang habaw tayo nagat kanok leka tutkikanak lu inyunak tap tumuna nunak puda unak yak parak man. Tam naptak nunak put permafrost miktay huga tam na nunamata ni hiku. Kanok lekata bra government magwa tap ko habak para elected aglaning ya ni hapakanyak hurok kanok tau chikun ubagullo kihulle kahabau totem tabra tain na tabra tauchikun habau takinya hikput tam na permafrost miktai hugait tam na audrock hiku tabra nunambatani tok kanole ka tabra maning nika kanole ka maning nika pinyak lud pinyak nyak tut government federal government tabra tau ka tam na kanok carbon pricing miktai hugay carbon tax tam na agilyanak akilifarnak government carbon tax miktai hugay kanok tau chikun habak kalak tut kanok leka tut kikarnak lugitay na inuhikput kanok tam na tau chikun habau takinyakalakput aglan habang naktok tam na habang naktok habak pawrak kakluta lugit tapkot tut kikarnangitchut aglan uwagut tau chikun habak kupta tabra tut kikakirok kanok kuyanak Health and Social Service tabra hakalang naktok wakakti tabra federal government nin tabra maning nika pigalok $2 million tun tam na habaw takinyak lui tapkot federal Health and Social Service niktay huwait inyong nika pikayoktit $24.18 million tun ham billion yakut government federal government kanok leka tut kikarna iswakin yak lui kanok inyu hingit inyit tabra kanok anyak tot nagalunin inyu nyak tot kanok leka iswakin yak lui nagalunin tut ikayon yak lui kanok tapkot isak ilihak tiluit kanok leka ikayon yak lui kanok leka habang naktok tabra tut kikarnakalakay tabra kanok leka habaw takablu kanok huangan hinyak lugita kanok ikayok na kinyong nun kanok tabra wakakti kanok leka tabra ikayok na kigalakay inyuit tama kanok haklung nigpi atoktot kanok ikayok na kay tabra inyunak totain na haklung nika atoktot nagalunin huniglaka atoktot tangaluni tabra kanok leka inyunak totain na ikayornaqhigait qanorleqa tabra ikayornaqhigaluaqait tabra taaptumna government piljuornealigitsut taina qaneq uhimma tabra inungnik isuaqqiniartuat naagaluni ikayuiniartuat qanorleqa tusqikkaranearlugit inuhingit inuit tamnaptaq long-term care tapkortaq inyait aimavingat qaneqa ikayoq nearugait tapkortingit qanorleqa tabra havangnearaat nakoqiniarlugi inuhingit tabra qanorleqa ikayornearlugit inuit tabra ikaaqqaarlugununaptingni inuit tabra inuit tabra qanorleqa ikayornearlugit tabra havakkaluarlut ukat NWT tabra inuit ikayuruat tabra NWT Health Social Services tai hugai tapka tabra ikayuiniaq qurut qoyanaq Minister statement Premier qawqlikuna oqallangniartaq tabra Honorable Vince McKay piñartoq maanga ukua taiku
Qoyanaini oqaqti ataneq oqaqtaksat kitunilleqa iglumi oqaqtaksat Great Slave oqaqtinga qoyanaini tasvago aipaangani taapqa 2023 go taigoaliartaamna taapikuna iglutigun oqaqtat akittoqma 28% kun tasva aasinngooq taimanna iluatun inuuniarviksangit iglunik oqaqsimayut tasvagooq iluangittut tutqiumangitunik inuit iglunik palermata tasvagooq uvani igluqpait savaaksaujut inuviaksiuat uvani Yellowknife taimannaptauq tasvagooq inuit iglulgit iluangit kaluarman taiman isumaalularpaktuat iluanginmata igluit tasvagooq taapkuat savaaksaujut iluatun tutqiksarpata akituvallaariblutiglu tutqiksaaq arangamikkuk tasva taapkunapkaaq Northern Properties tasva 2015 taapkuat Northview miptauq ila taamna taapkuat angalan matjung Yellowknife mi taima asin taapkuat sivunmuutigiplugu inuuniarviksangit igluqpait taimanna malerut taksat taapkuat angalataat taapkununga asin tutqiksaqsimayut taapkunuuna savaktiksaitigun savaktuat tasvagooq qanoqtut tutqiksaajuksut taapkuat iluatun maligaksait tutqiksaiinikkun tasva apeqsuin excited tasba frame like me okakte kaya na ini 5 years nigok tasba munaksiuat anniaqtuni tasba taap kuna niptaaq anniaqpaarmat tasba goq ikayutigiat taap kununa inillaanun naagaluunneen enarneret ininginnun angiklivailluni ikayutiksait tasbagoq taimanittamik iluatun iniuniaqutainni ikayutiksartik tasba takumayait iluangit kaluarmata ilaani savaaksavallaat tasba taimanittamaqtaaq iluatun aullatsutiksainik anniaqtuanun malerutaksat anniaqtunun savagukkaluartut tasba anniarviittaaq taapkuattus qiksaaksaumata iluatullu nayortaksait inuit taappununa oqartuaq ilaaniptaaroq pikkaarluktuat ikayortuksaummata niqiksaitiigullussutiigulleqqaa imanna atuaksaitigun pikkaarluktuat taiman aassiin iluatuttaa aulatsutiksainik savaktiita tusqiksaayuksat taimanittamik aassiin taimanna COVID-tiuttaoq taapkuat maniksautait taima aassiin taimanit taapkuat aulatkaayuksat qangma March titeqquutikpan tasba oqartii tasba taimanna taapkuat aulatqugaluaritka iloqilugit tutqiktumik aulatqublugit maligaksat taapkualu ikayortingit anniaqtuleqiit ikayortiluunniik taapkununga ikayuutiksaitigun taimanittamik munaqsitiguttaaq tasba taapkuat munaqsiput ilaani atausilimangituatun itkaluartut
Satumin qallanniartoq qoyanaq uqaattavra qanoq katitsuurat councilsnik taihuugait tavra qanoq uqaattavra havak paaraqtuata qanoq tutqiqqarniarlugit qanoq innuuhingittaap saatumi taapkuat havak paaraqalortut aglaan innuuheq allangorpaaraqtoq qanoq taina uqaat hoarlungnika atoruulliqlutit qanoq tavra uqaat qanoqliqaatavra havagnaqqivitaap uqaat qanoq tautsikun havagniarlut kihulleqa councilsnik taihuugait kihulleqa hivunniaq niartuata qanorleqa tutqiqqaarniarlugit innuuhingit innuittaap taamani Akuat tautsimukluting uqaat havauttaqiniaraluaraat qanorliqaatavra hivunmunniaraluartut aglaanilaanni hapernaqqihuulurta qanoq havagniarmata innuit tutqiqqarniarlugit innuuhingit taapkut qanorliqa havagniaruugaluartut aglaan ilaanni hanugu apirrifaarniartunga quyanaq Techo
Mr. Speaker.
Koia nei ni okakte. Te chume okakte. Cheryl Yakalaya. Okakte upa nunapting ni enda betime. Tas wagok tap kwat inuit okaktit okaktulakait. Tas wa kai ok tikitok tamna. Inuit okaroyuat kidulaka. Tap kwat nalonayak taksat kuyagiyavut inuit okalgit inmikun okausimikun. Tasva enda betime taimanna over ni nunapting ni 11 nek okausingit inuit ittut enda betime. Tasva gok tap kwat government tingne tap kununga sanayuk taksa aloa tap kununga okaroyuandun. Tasva gok ilane inmikut pitkusang mikut ilisautu takaktuat. Taimanna okausik samikutta ilane sapeksautigamikko. Tasva okaktuatu saama pigivakat taimanna okausik samikkun ikayoktiksatik uvaina kailain mata. Tasva tusa ikayotikit qablu tamanna okaqsimayunga taapkununga kavamapta savautait ilitsori yaksaqaluangi taapkuat ikayoqlugit imanna aullaq titauyaqaangamik taununga sumun taapkununga taapitaksat sannayaqtaksaqaluangit ikayutauyuksat taapkunungalu oqausiksait sannayaqtaksaqaluangit taap interpretaujuanut oqartigi yaptingne inuinnarni itqiliniluunnin tasva oqarti taapkuat savaq pigiammanunaptingni apeqsuayut taimanna iluatun aulat qublugu taapkununa ilisautaqpangni ilaut qublugit ilisautsifagli qublugit taimanna ilitaksaitigun. Apeqsukit ko taapkua angeqsimavatsung naagaluunnin taapkuanngooq ilisaaksat taapkununga inuinnartullu oqausingitigun inuit maanin ilisaqsimayaat maani taamna ikayutauniartoq imanna taamna suli aulapkaq quyaqaluarput kinguvakkun dechumigo oqaqte Trinity Holiday mi oqaqte qoyanainni ataneq tasvagoq taapkuat
50 million a year and 600 million over the 4-year period. With little economic development on the horizon, it is obvious that the government income will remain flat. Therefore, these targets will have to be met primarily through budget cuts, but it's too early to get a clear picture of where those cuts will be and how they'll be implemented. That's austerity and is now a priority for the GWT 20 Assembly and does not come as a surprise. We are 1.6 billion in the hole and climbing, and should have stopped long ago. Yet, yes, it's true that many of the circumstances that had inflated our deficits were beyond our control. However, the GWT is also missed a lot of obvious warning signs and critical opportunities to prevent us from getting in the mess we have today. We know when our mines the mines are going to start closing, but we never focus on pivoting towards a new development. Instead, we just keep on expanding the size of government. In the last 5 years alone, the size of the GWT workforce grew by 25%, while outpacing our population growth. A significant portion of those governments.
Taapkuat havaktuat aglurit 25% kanok aglak parak to 25% igul lugutamna kanoka habang nektot nunaptingni. GNWT government kamabot tabra kanoka habag kalwa da tauchikun tapkot government tangungichot habang nagalaktot kanokle katabra ukot manichut tapkot inyita habaw takinyak katka tabra maningnik pichut manichut tabra habang nektot aglan taina too fast. Hello. Kapfa lang niyak tuktam na. Kanokle katam na
Solution. We'll just end up in the same fiscal situation 10 years from now, except my people will have more and more houses to repair, more infrastructures to build. In restoring the balance plan, I hope to see more meaningful words in the balance. I have questions for the Finance Minister at appropriate time. Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, member from Inuvialuktun. Member statements. Member from Inuvialuktun.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Koyanaini, Willowday, Bootleg, Tasbarok, Tamna, Nunaptikun, Landliskun, October 2023 me. Ilichayayok, Tasbatap, Guasavaksa, Emana, Akituvalak, Ludik Tap, Guad, Akidokte, Akituk Mata, Inilat, Iglut. Tasbagok tam na sanayak tat maligaliangat. Tasba tap kunungas sanayak semat iluatun maligaliangat. Tap kununga. Tasba akasin akitubalang matatap kuat atugaligit tasba tap tam napta okarimaga iman na okaniarmaya tap kununga kanok iliniarmangatsung tasbatam na tap kuat inungunu tema tutak simamman tap kunung savaksak tutkiksak tau tema na malakutaksak puttau tap kunung tema na Akitu maliglu iglud maligak say tap kot ubagut taok sa bakay kaptigo. Kawam taok tap kot takun nagsimagait tap kuno nga kanok to ang kitok mga taman na taxes tigulo. Maligaliano lo malakot aksad aglagtat tas batap kuno nga sa tuanon igluling nun. Tas bagok kayo kati pagkalwakto ni tap kuno nga tema tap kuno nga ikayo tingin niya matuk sa wamit kon angon niyak tinulo okak yellow knife centerman aliw na
is members work with the cabinet and the
Got about habaguru tauchikun tap got kanokle ka tutkikarnek lugit haba kanokle ka tam na itwakanyak lugit kanok ka habagtot. Kanok ka tap got consismic tayo kanokle ka tap got Camille work to kanok inyu rot mani kanok kanok nekpat ituak nekparung kanok Government makwa habang nakalok to tabra February 6 CBC tapkot kanok tutkikar nakalok ay taglan tapkot kanok tapkot Kimilaroyarniartuata qanoqinniuhiingit consensusmik tayugaat qanoqa piniarlugit taapkuat qanoqa inniuhiingit qimilaroyorniarlugu qanoqleqa qanoq taapkuat qanoqisuaqqiniarparrung taina qanoqa tabra pimmata CBC tun tapkot tabra habaktot kanok pinyakpat kanok tutkikarniakpatung taina in habaktot taina tabra tamna nakugaluartok habaktot tau chicken kanok isaqqiniarlugit inniuhingit qiyanak Range Lake. No.
Range Lake. Inuvialuktun ba amisimek savaktaksak mani. Tapkuat kangiutit kugaluaqa taamna ila tamanna angigila pallaaman isumaalu tigiyait sumilaqa kapamtingne taimanna akittuvialut qanoq akilarniarpat tasbagoq taamna uqauseriaqa uvani taimanna imanna uqausa itaapkunuuna maligaksaitikusavaktaksat 150 million akitutilaanga taapkununga aglaatoraartisameq 2028 taapkununga tasba aasin sannaayaqtaksait tamanna manik atoqtaksaq tasba aasin taapkununga uvaptingnut kavamanun ilisaaqsaujoq tasba taapkununga aasin kayoqtaksaptingnu nunallaaptingnu taimanna ila taimanna uvaptigun angalalaitkivat inmikuttaorsavaaqsaqarmat tasbaptaoqtaapkuat katimayit angalatsimuyait taapkununga sivullernak maligaksatigun sivulliutiyuksat tasbagooq taimanna taapkuat iliyait taapkuat aasin qanoq angalanniarpatsung qanoqtun maybe sissukaittumik aulapkagum mikku ilipsi taapkuat ilisaaksat taapkuat aullartipsaarupsigik maliqutniarik puluunniin iluatun savaaksarput tasba aasin taamna miklit quvlugu angalaktaksaq tuksaarvigipsi taamnat ilaani tutqiksilugu nungullugu savaaksaq tamanna ineqpat tasba taimanna ilorriauniaqaluartaarnunallaaptimni maani maniktigullu tamatkuat angalataksat taapkuat ilisaaksaumata savaktigiyavut ikajorniartavut maani nunaptingni taapkununga.
Thank you, member from Range Lake. Member statements. Member from Mackenzie Delta.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the community of Sigachik and its residents have been requesting the
Tapkot sigichik mi inurot inunera virami tapkot ikayoktit nursinik tai hugay tapkot ikayoktit inyung kanok tapkota ukiarmi tabra apkota qakalortut aglan winter road niktai hugaita tapkota aglan qanoqa ukiatami qanoqa piñaqpat taina apqutaitsutaina qanoqleqa ikayorniaraluarai tapkota anniartot qanoqa piñaqpat sigitchikmi tabra qanoqa haperñaqqi pauraqtoq haperñaqqeq pauraqtoqinniuheqtaina qanoqa araki tapkota munaqsit piñaitsut qanoqa tapkota tabra qanoqleqa tabra isuaqiniaq kaluaraita tutqiqqarniaraluarait inniuhingit tabra aglan haperñaqtoq qanoqa ikayuiniartuat munaqsit nursireniktai hugait tabra qanoqleqa tabra qanoqleqa tabra tutqiqqarnaqqigaloartut qanoq inniuhingit inaurami quyanaq Yellowknife North quyanaq Uvlupako qaalangniariga taamna tapkot healthcare niktai hugait inuit inuita ikayuhuurata inyungnik qanoqleqa tabra tapkot munaqsit inyungnik munaqrihuurat qanoq maniitsut tabra tapkot akihoq pauraqtoq taina inniuniaqaming tabra akitsoq pauraqaluartoq aglan tabra akiyarnaq angiaq pauraqtoq deficit niktai hugait taimna qanoq tapkot nursinik taaqtatlu qanoq taamungarnaqqipat taimna tabrunga inauramun tak sigitsikmin qanoqniarpat qanoq isa ikayorniarpatigitainna qanoq qanoq tapkot taaktit maaniitsuugaluartut aglaan ilaaniika haperñaqqihuurit qanoq yaraqpauraqlutin qanoq ikayornaqqigaluarait aglaan ilaani taina havakkaming havakpauraqlutin iyaraleqqiruurut qanoqleqa tabra tapkot ikayornaqqigaluarait aglaan haperñaqtoq qanoq piñaaqlutin taaktinik naaklunin nursinik quyanaq qaffaalakkalukugaluartoq quyanaq okot qanoq tabra maningnikpihukkaluartugut aglaan qanoq qanoqleqa tabra apernaqqipellakkaluartoq tainnainiuniartaat qadoq taaktinik piniarluting naagalunin nurserynik qadorliqa kayarnaqqigaluarai taapkuatinuit innaurami kuyanaq taapkuat Ali.
Ashley O'Krenick, Megan O'Krenick, and Rosa Wright from Fort Simpson. During the spring of 2023, the community
2023 mitabra ukuat pechako kanok ukuat kanok
Moose Hide Camp at the Fort Simpson Territorial Campground for 3 days and welcomed all community members to participate. They set up meals, had hides ready for scraping and tanning, and taught people how to work on hides. As well, there were sewing tents and activities for children set up. They were encouraging people to come and visit, have tea, and eat traditional food together. It was a
Inuit tabra pechako mi kait kugalo kait inuit tabra kanok ukari huklu tana inuhinik tapko arna tabra kanorleka tutkikarnarlu inuhingit tabra kanorleka habang mata tapko arnat tapkot pingudaranat habak pauraloqtut habak pauraqtut kanok inyuhingit kanorleqa isuaqqiniarlu kanok tabra kanorleqa habakluting kanok habak pauraqluting kanorleqa NWTPRA tabra taiko haba tauchikun haba kapfi kuyanak Great Slave qalingniartoq ilitsuaniarlugi tikuata pulaartuat maani tapkodika yuirat pages niktai hugat kuyanak haikapfi kuyanak ikayok kaptigut environment climate change kuyanak haikavit Yellowknife North kuyanak 3 tapkot pingaut tabra ikayuirat pages nik Kate Rosard Kate McShane kuyanak kay habakapfi mani Georgina Rout taiku ikayok kaptigit Yellowknife South kuyanak tapkot pingaut pages ikayuirat kuyanak kay kapfi mga tabra kuyanak parak Range Lake tabra kalang niak tok. Ukiupak tabra fiscal situation tabra ukakailang niaria. Maning ni kai chikap tigo. Kanok pinyakpat, kanok ukakailang niak pi kayanak. 131 million talatin hama kahit sigalo ay tap ko kanok health and social services miktay hugay tap ko tay kayok titin yung nun kanok laka.
Nunavut. Mr. Speaker, there is some accounts receivable owing as well. I believe roughly at around $10 to $12 million.
Tam na akilakanak 10 to 12 million talatin kanok laka aki parak to kanok habang matatay na tap to mani health and social services mi kuyanak 131 million. Tabra kanok kuyanak.
Sure that we are, in fact, adhering to current industry best practices. These are exactly the conversations to be had, not only about making cuts, and certainly not about making cuts to programs and services that people depend on, but looking at what we can do to encourage all departments, every agency, to be maintaining these standards to accounts receivable. Right now, that is, if invoices are 30 days or more past.
Kanok manita tam utik sinak kalok to tagalan tap ko akichok parak to kanok habang niyak kangatay na health and social services ni tay hugay tap ko habak to tamani kanok akihok parak to kanok habaw niya habaw niya kangat time na GNWT tap ko to kanok tap ko kanok akili fakanak to government tax nik tay hugay Hugot kanok taw kerbatay kanok sales tax nik tay hugay kanok nek pat and pak 7% nik tay hu pihurut aglan kanok pinyak padu kanok kanyak padu nagalunin habaw ta kanyak padu kuyanak. Yeah. Kuyanak. Hugot akilakanak government tabra kanok nek padu tay na kuyanak. Minister of Finance. Kuyanak. Tap ko inyi tabra mga kuting habang nakugalak to tagalan tam na kanok tam na akichok parak to kanok tax niktay hugay kanok government na akilyanak. Tap ko maning nikpi pihugalok to tagalan akichok parak to tan government akilakanak taxes niktai hukat. Kanorleka titkikkarmata taina tabra havang naktok. Great Slave. Mini justice mig tamna mini tak kanok munakrihuruak tap got justice kuyanak Minister of Justice tabra kiulang naktok kuyanak government tabra kanok havagurot taina tap got kanok ukat nunanik atoktot land nik taihugay tap got land tax nik atoktot taina nunapting nik manin nunami kanok aglagaluting apekruinaktok application nik taihugay tap got kanok leka apekruinaktok tap got landlord nik tahugat atoktichot iglunik landlord nik taihugay tap got atoktichurot iglunik kanok Great Slave me kuyanak initak kiukamga NWT rental office tap got iglunik atoktichurot kanok lekay pekroyu kaloaktut kanok leka hilichoriakluting kanok havang mata tap got iglunik atoktichurot kuyanak kanok tautung niagaloagay kanok kemilruyoruniagaloagay tap got kanok iglunik atoktitot rental officer nik taihugay tap got kanok iglunik hakilakanak atoktitot iglunik kanok lekatut kaikarniak lui tap got havagaloak tutagalan ni pilaichut kuyanak got kanok got kanok leka tabra ni haperniak tokinyunak inyuniaknak tap kununa igluni atoktot kuyanak got rental office nik taihugay tap got kanok atoktichurot iglunik aglan akiliakanat kanok environmental health unit nik taihugay kanok havaw takihuvadrung kanok isokiniakluid inyuniak vingit tap got munarilugit taina inyuingit kanok iglut tap got kanok kuyanak minitak tam na piljava kanok tutkikkaarniarpalun taina atoqtuata iglunik taina akiliarlutin qanorliqaatavera tutkikkaarniaraluarait qanorliqa iglunik atoqtuatavera qanor tutkikkaarniaraluarait tavera illaani hapeqjarvuuroq taapkuat qimilriuqlutin taina qanoq iñuuniartuat taina iglunikatoqtuat akiliqlutin
to consult with their MLAs. Thank you.
Oral questions, member from Yolney Center.
Yalnaf sanjamik daubba. Uqaqti. Taamnagoq uqausinga tasba. Taimannagoq savaaqsavut atautsikun aulapqartaksaaluavat. Aglaan atautsikun. Qanoq tamanna savaaqsaqsivunmutiksaa aulapqarniarpisiu. Taapkununa carbon tax-ikulugun. Taapkununa ikayaqatigiiqubluta. Taapkununga nuatqaqintigiaptingnun. Taapkununa. Qoyanaini. Taapkuat aglaqtat. Taiguaksat. Sannayaaksat takunerait. Manilaqi. Qoyanaini. Taamna. Ila oqaqatiginda taapkuat carbon tax tasba taapkununa ila iqausrimmatik taapkuat inuit taamna inuviaksivialukun angigliplunili oqaqtaksaqsanayak taksaq taapkununa nunulaaptingnili sumileqaamaani kaananami oqarimmatsun taamna allalujutiksaa angivialuktoq suangivialuktoqlu taapkununa maligaliu taapkununa tuaqtisimayoq taapkununga atukliani tasbagoq taapkununga allatqeet maligaliangit maligsat isamaliortigiyait inuit tasba kangeqsinavialuktoq taapkununa kavamaptigun maligaliak taksangit tasba taapkuat sivunneerutigilugillu taapkununga taiman uqauseriissungit kaluarait aglaan ukuat uqauserineagaat ilipsi savangniariksi tasba uqauseriarput tasba taamna sivulliutiginiarikput uqauserilugu sivunneerutiksangat taapkualu maligalaksait savaaqtaksangillu kavamapta taapkunungalu inungnun nunallaami toqaaqtisimammatta ila maligaliuqtaksaumattamanna aulapqarlugu taapkununa maniktigun ikayuutiksaitigun.
Just said their public position is they're responding to the cries of the public, not to members. That's what I just heard. And she said it was shared to get it out there, but my letter to my office says confidential. So how am I supposed to share it? So Mr. Speaker, my question, I guess, for the finance minister, who's a recycled minister from the last government, is how are members supposed to share confidential documents when you stamp them confidential and you get to publicly release them without discussing them with committee members first? Cabin radio.
Members, please direct your questions to the chair, not to the member or the Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the carbon tax changes and the removal of
Hukataptera akilak farnak governmentunun carbon tax niktai hugait kanok kanok habang niyak parung habaw takala galwaka taglan ila ni hapik niyak kehur kanok okay kamirung tam na carbon tax ila ni hapik niyak kehur kanok pinyak niyak marung humitam na kanok pinyak parung tabra habag kalwarya habag para kaila
fiscal strategy, which I'll note, Mr. Speaker, in the past, certainly in the 4 years ago, in my knowledge of past assemblies, a fiscal strategy was not
kanok habag kalwaka tayo na kanok ukyok pagka may fiscal period nikta hugay tara kanok humika ilihimaw kalwakpit kanok pinyak habang kanok tabra habang niyakalwaya kanok hutkopi nga kaya nak tap ko kanok lupak 20 assembly meet va habak to 20th century me kanok tap ko 19th century mean
in advance of documents.
Just ox tap quat sivit kemik okausik sanayak sa aglan deman nasanaya apsu tap kuna strategy sivneotik sak sivitavalangit kalwaktok deman naptak tap quat sabak sabot ila deman ilitroip kay judiksat kangaksi judiksat inuit. Kuya na inyo kakte. Okausayat ko batia. Tapuno na territorial, regional territorial council tigon. Siwala ko apakso tigiya ka. Ikayonik ko tus kayo manikon. Kanok dun tap ko na nga regional wellness council nun tap ko na nga kanok dun okausakang mga. Minister Health and Social Services. Kuya nine okakti over 2016 me. That's Diamond NTSSA mon no do it. That's civil law yet. That's nulalapting ni. Ikayokta kaklodik Nunapti Northwest Territories mi katimak kaklodik. Das asin. Diamond asin NTSSA gunun. Das asin regional nunalapting ni committee umayot katimaya kakmayot. Das asin tap kunani asin iksiway iksamingni o kaktik samingni itak. Das tap quad asin angalatak say tap quad sibunnyok tigi blue tap kununga atanik saksyo angamik tap kunang tao teman angalatat. Das tabi muna kaktami. Apakso tainik tap kununga kaya na ini tasva tugliauva apexodia taamnagoq qanuqtun savaaqsaqtamanna 2016 min qanuqtun aulava taapkununga TLCne taapkunungalo ikayoqtipta tungaagon savaaqsaitigon Regional Wellness Council kut Minister of Health and Social Services overall oqaqti tasva atapkuat takumayavut utsaqutigayait savaaksait tasva saaqlugu savaaksataapkuat kingullermik paksaani tasva tuklia tasva asien taapkuat savaktiksariait savaaksatik sannayaqtait taapkununga Health and Social Services saatumin oqaqti qianaini apeqsuutigineaq paginngooq taapkuat oqauseriatit taapkununga tusaapqarniarpatigut taapkunuuna oqauseriamigun Satu Health and Social Services overall ila oqaqtaami manna oqauserineakkat taapkununga oqaqtaksaq tasva atautsikut uvani savaktaujuanni talva sannayaaksat taapkua savaarimavaq tavuk tasva taapkuat aasin sannaaqpata inungnutkit tunulliqaatuya tusaajaksainun sannaayarniarmayavut saatumin aasinuva qianainni sumi tamanna savagniarpitiung Health and Social Services I'll asin savaktaugamma tasva savaaksaannaluneerman tasva taamna tikitinnangamaunga tasva sannayaqtaa taamna taapkuali anti taapkuali ikayoqtitka taapkuat sannaayarniakkavut tamaita taapkunanga sannaayaqsaning uqariaptingnik taimani sannaayarlugut saayaksaat nunalaaptingni Inuvingmi oqaqti government ngo uva taamna sivunmuutiksat tasva aqassin taapkununga
People may be eligible to and need to contact ECC to
qanuqa taapkuata atoqtuata nunamik qanuqa piñaqpat qiyanaq taapkuata atoqtuata nunanik qanuqa leaseholders nik taihugait environment climate change taamna kiullaktuaq qiyanaq taapkuata piñaqpaat taapkuata qanuqa atoqtuatainna akilliqanat leaseholders taapkuata akilliqanaqqa tuaqa qanuqa piñaqpat taapkuatauqa qanuqa qanuqtutqikkaarniarparung tainna qanuqatoqtuata taapkuata nunanika qiyanaq Nuvik putlek kuyanak kanok pinyak padrung tayo na kanok pinyakalwak padrung tayo na kanok huvihi kanok tutkikarnak pitigitap kot kanok tap kot o kautigalwa ita tap kot kanok tauchikun tap kot indigenous leaseholders niktay hugay tap kot tanngungitsyot iglulikit kanok tayo na kanok tutkikarnak tap kot tuktot nunanik agilokaktot tayo na tap tumani nunani atoktat kanok o kautigalwagay tap kot atoktot leaseholder niktay hugay tap kot atoktot nunanik agilakanak tot inuving mitaber tauchimun wikarinia tamna kanok tauchikun habang naktuaktan tutkikarnak luit kanok tap kot nyunek tot nunapting ni kuyanak igilokak tot kanok leka tutkikarnak luit atoktot tayo na kanok nunani atoktot leaseholder niktay hugay kuyanak tap kot environment change tap climate change miktay hilak pudu alang parakma kanok leka tabra tutkikarnak luit kanok iswakinyak luit kanok tamna habaw tarinyak luit tamna kanok hilak puda alang parakma kuyanak ibon mo to kuyanak Frame Lake kuyanak o karilek ko ako tap kot nurses aid time nurse yun ikayoktit nurses aid kanok nek padung tamna health and social services lang nektok okay ukot ukalang nariga tamna COVID tamna puwakluk mata puwakluk manin mata manin man kanok about tarin niya loakayat tamna hapiranyak kanok leka kanok tamna tutkikarnak kangatay na kanok hiswakinyak luit tamna kanok nyuhik tamna kuyanak Frame Lake Kuinak. Habang matatam na kanok tayo na COVID miktay hugay tam na puwaklok inman kanok tapkot kanok nek pat kanok nek patapkot habaktot kanok habang ilakanek pat kanok ukwat tao kanok yan ni habang ihakod haglan tuhangit tayo na tayo tayo nakani kan kep kakania kalori katam na kanok leka tap ko kanok tap kuno na puglalong ming okare kami rin tam na COVID niktay hugay tam na kanok kanok leka tap ko habak paralok kanok pinya kanok habaw takanak parang tayo na kanok uvlepak tap ko $36 million in hama tayo na tap ko havalert kanok tayo na tap ko habang net positions niktay hugay habang nak hiblugi tap ko inuit tabra ay kayo nakluit tabra pipiak nakluit tap ko inuit kanok habag tinakluit kanok leka kuyanak Prem Lake kuyanak Kaiku Tunde Wilde kuyanak 19th Assembly mi tam na Afrika minitak maningnik munakri 150 million year tun kanok inyong itabaw tayo niyaklu
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, that is certainly a role that I think every member of the House would be taking seriously, and I certainly would do so as well within my capacity. As part of the budgeting process, Mr. Speaker, I instituted and intend to continue doing a budget dialogues process. It's an opportunity where I have a specific meetings with Indigenous governments here who are within the Northwest Territories. I also have a separate specific meeting with NVTAC, the representation for the municipalities, then do public sessions and sessions with other stakeholders. These are going to be upcoming before building the 24-25 main estimates. With respect to, as well, to employees, Mr. Speaker, we've had over 300 responses already, in fact, probably more now.
kanok tap ko 300 nik hipalik kokwaktot mani apekru luting kanok tutkik karner alo tap aglan I tabra. Nakunakok. Kuyanak. Kanok tam na maning nikat atong mata kanok aglilakanek parung tam na increasing niktay hugay tapta aglilakanek parung tam na manik kanok kadakonek pat kuyanak. Tabra inyo nakaper nakigalwaktok aglan kanok tap ko tax revenue niktay hugay tap ko kanok habak tot kanok ka akilakanak kavamanon kanok habak takigalwaki putam na kanok tabra habak kibutam ko kanok iswak kanyak luit kanok kuyanak kanok tap ko kanok apaham tap ko kanok habak tot kanok tay na habaw tay kangatay na kanok
That came in on time and on budget, not the least of which is the Cleat Show All-Season Road. That said, I do agree that there's certainly a need to ensure that all capital planning has a good news story at the end of the day, no matter what the financing arrangement might be. There's been some changes in the last assembly to the capital planning process to have more planning, to have more dollars in the planning, so that the cost estimates that we have are of a greater certainty, and that we have that certainty when we go out to actually put the dollars out. So thank you for the question. Again, I think it's important, but there's a lot of work happening in that space already, and we do expect members to hold us to account as we go forward on that one to make sure we're achieving it. Thank you.
Supplementary. Member from Trinity-Willety.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the 19th Assembly, I came in as an MLA for halfway through my term in a 2-year period, and I couldn't really put my wishes onto the bus. The train already left the station. So, Mr. Speaker, I put forward a letter to the Premier outlining the priorities for my 4 communities. So my question would be to the Minister. I have shared a letter with the Minister that I sent to the Premier which laid out my priorities for my communities. Can the Minister commit to reviewing these priorities and considering them when work begins on the budget and focus on the 4 top priorities? Merci, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Member from Trinity-Willety. Minister of Finance.
Well, Mr. Speaker, obviously setting the priorities of the Assembly is work that we've all collectively just done, and the next step is to ensure that there's a mandate to help achieve those priorities. Obviously that's work that happens by all members of Cabinet, including myself, and I believe will be work that involves back and forth to members of the Assembly, including the member who's asking the questions. So as that process is underway, I'm hopeful and confident that it can continue to be a dialogue and one that will see reflection of everyone that's here. Thank you.
Minister of Finance. Oral questions. Member for Yellowknife North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My questions are for the Minister of Health and Social Services. So noting in the Minister's statement today that one of our current initiatives is employee engagement for retention, can the Minister describe any specific retention strategy that we currently have in place that would hopefully lead us to decrease our reliance on agency nurses and locum doctors? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
From Yellowknife North, Minister of Health and Social Services.
Mr. Speaker, if I want to answer that as best as I can, but you might cut me off. So
Sas pokot nelo na yelang ni ait katap ko sa baktuksat. tap kuat asin kingulo de bakabutamat kuat sabak tuat monaksivut ila tap kuat asin temen naptak sabak tauyot sannayak taksaumata tasba okhausari pangniala tsumilaka maaninunapting nitamna Inuit ikikliyoatun sabaktigiyaw tamat kuat ilimmata tasba asin tap kuno naptaok taktitigon munaksitigullo Health and Social Services, Human Resources, Ukaya, tasba formi teman na inuyak suklugit sabaktigit yaw tamat kuat nunalaptingni tasba taok Okausakawit ila tamat kuat sapeksautigiait kangiutit kublugit talpa asin sumilakap daok tap kuat sabak taksat akpautit kublugit sumilaka ay pangani krismang nang tap kuat krismang nang me talpa asin ikayok tau yo temen nap tau talpa tap kualo sabak taksaumat tap kuat savautigiyait ilisaktait talpa asin tap kunangap tau maaninunaptingni savagbigiyait nuktabigiyait okhausariyavut sumuleka ikayutik satik ikayok tauniamanga tap kunani talpa ila savaqatigisuk kaluaripsi tap kunanga temna tutqiksauta okhausarilutiu avanmun Yellowknife Northman ubap tau oqaqti tam tuklarik taqlu tamna ikayutaun nigineaq pitigo tap kunanga ilani savaqtinin ilani inuksilaaqtat savaqtit aullaangata qanoqtun simmautik saitingut tap kununap tau maninnak taaksatigun savaqtini Health and Social Services ubba qayanani tap kunap tau ikayok tap kuat imanna nalunayaqsutik katimaqatitiglu oqaqatigillu imanna aglaktigullu tap kununa oqausariblutigu tap kununga savaqtinun qutsit qiyainun imanna oqausariya ila tap kununi ilani iluatus savangaqtuni inukliblugu savagbiksait nagalunin yaqamayuat qanoqtun ikayorniarpitik tap kununga taima asin uqausariyai tap kunanga taqtusaavagisuk kaptiik taimana ikayutauniarman taspa tap kunanga taq savaktiksavut qinaraptik tuklit savaktiksat ilisaqsimayuat tap kununga savaktiuniarmangaattaluni atautsimuttaq taimana savautigipkut qinani Yellowknife Northman tap kunangaptaq naqsivangit kaluarait uvalat shaaq bilistaptaaviwa tasva taimannaptaq imanna akitutigiyoq taaktinun taapkusitarva taimannaptaq anniaqpaaluktilugu COVID taimanna akiliusiangat taimannaptaq suli allanguyuittoq taiman tau ila tamna oqaussariaksang tamna otaqtinearinga oqau ko kingovakkun yaqanai oqausarillavio taapkununa savaqtunun imanna angit qiagun savaqviksamingni uplersiutaq qaangitlugu savaqtuatigun Stanton Yaqanai Hospital ilisimayakka taapkuat ikayoqtaujuat ataneriaujuat pisimayat taamna oqausariplugu uqaqtan taapkununa oqausari niariga ilingnun tusaavigisukpanga qinainni uqaqti Dechum taubba uqaqti apeqsuutiujaqa PCE man uva ka tuqquliutillarniarpanga taapkununa oqaussariaksainik taapkuna nga oqaussiitigun maani nunaptingni oqaqtiitispeqquyassukvigiappusin taapkununa taimannapta oqaussariaa taapkuatuaqtisimaat taapkuat oqaussivut taimanna sivunniorutauvva oqautsivut sivunmuktilavut taspa taamna nalunaaq tauvaqtaq taimannangaaniin taapkunungalu aulatsuta mentorship program government savaqtiita oqausiptingnik ilisauttutigiulugu tuaaqtisimayoq nunallaartingnassumi ilisauqtuanan taspasin $5,000 taktauaqtor taapkunanga attorlugu sivunmuuktuanan oqautsimagtun taspa scholarships tamatkuaqsannaajaqsimayatuaqtisimat ilisauqtuanan ilaatirvaptaaq Inuvialuktut sannaajaqsimayat ilisaututiksatik taapkuat taspat malarunnittaaq ukiuni sannaajaqmiyaat savaaksartaapkununga ilisarviksangat taspa iisianiikkut aqli
plan has two overarching
uktuarniartuta qanuq havangniarmik taapkununa indigenous language miktaihugeidit oqautsivut qanaq isuaqqiniarlugit naagalluunniin tutqiqqarniarlugit qanuq atorunarti quinaq teacher quinaq ukata qanuq havauttaqiniarparung taamna Aurora College miktaihugai taamna ilihaqvikpak qanuqniarparung tainna qanuq tutqiqqarniarparung naangaluunniin illiniarparung tainna qanuq havauttarigaluaraat taamra qanuq havakpaurartut tainna qanuqliqaataapkuat iliaqtillugit naagaluunniin iliaqtuat ikayorlugit taapkuat qanuqliqaataapra taapkuat ilinniartuat qanuq tainna humimiktitsiniartuat qanuq ikayorlugit tainna uhimma taapkuat habang nekto taberni mumik tichironi kuyanak ticho kuyanak tap kot mumik tichiro tabra kanok tap kot have coming tabra inyak patam na mumik tichiro ta kanok kokornak patigi tap kot ikayornerluit tap kot inuit okalaichot kangkhilaichot taniktun kanorle tabra tap kot piljanaktut tap kot kokornaktut tap kot pihukkuvit taimna karehukkuvit huliqimmata hunik karehuk kaming tabra tamna kokornaqaluartuq kanokka tap kot havaktot tainna tap kot indigenous languages nik tap kot qadok tap mumik tichihurot kanokka agla auqaqtot tainna qautchiptingnik iñupiatun nagalunni iñuktitun qanorle qaaqarmata tanitun klito humiglaqa mumik tichi hurot tabra havagugalortut aglan qoqallavatut iñuit quyanaq ukot havakparaqaluartot tap kot havakkaluartot iñuit qanorle ikayornerluit tap kot sikitchingmi tap na inaurami qanok ingirruigaluaqaartut aglan pingitsutuli ikayungit kaithuli qanok tap kot RCMP nik hugait palihimat qanok pichutuli sikitchingmi inaurami tap tumani qanok Port McPherson tauqa pichok taina palihimanik havaktonik McPherson sigitchik tap kot ikayornearai tap kot palihimaliqalutin hukot qanok isuaqqiniarait ikayornearait tap kot inaurat palihimaliqalutin quyanaq palihimaliqalugit quyanaq sikichik tamna inauraq tap kot tap tuma minitam ikayornearpatigi tap kot qanok ibaqlerniarpat taap maniitaq taamna maningnik ikayoq quvlugi taapkuat sigitsikmi qanoq ikayorniaq qaluaqaitaglaan ilaani haperiñaruuruq qanoq federal government tauqaat ikayornaquurut ikayor llerivuurut avautarigaluaqaita havagniarluit hivunmun aullaqaniarluta tavra ikayorniarluit taapkuat sigitsikmi naagalunin McPherson taapkuat tavra ikayornartut qanorleqa qiinaq got taamna Polytechnic University miktaihugaid iliharvikpak qanorleqa hamma qanorleqa ilihaqtinniarlugit taapkuat inuit humniaqa qanoq Polytechnic taina pihugaita taamna iliharvikpak nappainiarpat taaptuminga qiinaq Aurora College tavra qanoq isuaqqiniaqaluaqaat havaktutuli qanoq uhimma taapkuat iliharniartuat qanoqleqa 3-week program Regina mitut qanoq taapkuat iliharniartuat qanoq hukuattaaqa havagniaqaluartut aglaana havaktut ilaartut taapkuat inuit qanoq ikayorniarlugit inaurat tainna ikayorniarlugit tainna isuaqqiniarlugit inuuhingit inaurami taina iliaqtinniarlugit inuit tavra iliaqtinniarlugit taapkuat uhimma hamagniartuat inaurani taina ikayorniarlugit inuuhingit taina qiinaq Yellowknife Center qiinaq
This release is not.
Taamna uqausariarput ila taamna 20th Assembly taamna isumaleodiksaq taamna tarviame taama kayodiksaqluunni maniliqaqqpata ukiumin uvani tarviama atalqum uqausarillaya ilisemagaplugulo taapkunanga savaktigiyaminin maani nunaptingni yoqunapsante ataneq naagay qiinainif talva savaktigiyaqput taapiumunga qiyapigiyaa taimanoqqarmat taasva savaqtaujuannan uqausariuq saimmatsuq taapkunuuna imanna Inmik savak bilangin nun. Savak daw yuanullo. Tamanna. Uqaussaqissungit kiblugul tamanna tu ilitsoip kaivak tua kapamaptingnan. Kayani uqaqti. Talpu tamna mani tikin masavagvimni. Uqaqvigilat kialunin. Apaqsuyuksat kitkut. Taapima commission taq uqaussariyaun uqartuksat kitkut aapkuat aklaktatigut uqarniarpat. Ja.
And a public inquiry into the Hay River Kakisa Enterprise wildfire. This petition does not strictly conform with our rules to be
Tamna igin khuruktak aglaktak petition miktai hugait kanok abekhruk paurak tot Hay River Enterprise Kakisa. Tam tuming ikwalak paurak
2023-24, supplementary estimates, operations expenditures number 4, 2023-2024, restoring balanced fiscal sustainability strategy for the 20th Legislative Assembly, and evacuation support program data as of February 14th, 2024. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister Finance, tabling documents, table from Yellowknife North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased to table the document entitled Priorities of the 20th Legislative Assembly. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, member from Yellowknife North. Tabling of documents, Notice of motion, member from Yellowknife North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I give notice that on Thursday, February 22nd, 2024, I will move the following motion. Now, therefore, I move, seconded by the Honourable Member for Hay River North, that the member for Decho, Cheryl Yakalaya, and the member for Satu, Daniel McNeely, are hereby chosen to be the Deputy Chairpersons of the Committee of the Whole. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member from Yellowknife North. Notice of motions, member from the Decho.
Mr. Speaker, give notice that on Thursday, February 22nd, 2024, I will move the following motion. Now, therefore, I move, second by the member for Yellowknife North, that the government of the Northwest Territories provide a response to table document 27-20 brackets 1 and table it in the House within 120 days. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member from the Decho. Notice of motion, member from Yellowknife Centre.
Thank you kindly, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I give notice that on Thursday, February 22nd, 2024, I'll move the following motion. Now, therefore, I move, seconded by the Honourable Member for Cam Lake, that the following persons be recommended to the Commissioner of the Northwest Territories for appointment to the Northwest Territories Honours Advisory Council, effective immediately for a term of 3 years, Ms. Jane Archuk of Yellowknife and Ms. Denise McDonald of Inuvik. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
From Yellowknife Centre. Notice of motion, member from Yellowknife Centre.
Thank you again, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I give notice that on Thursday, February 22nd, 2024, I'll move the following motion. Now, therefore, I move, seconded by the member for Cam Lake, that Ms. Renee Caron be appointed as the Equal Pay Commissioner in accordance with the Public Service Act by the Commissioner of the Northwest Territories as recommended by the Legislative Assembly. And further, that the Speaker be authorized to communicate the effective dates of the appointment to the Commissioner. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, member from Yellowknife Centre. Notice of motion, notice of motion. Motion, motion. Notice of motion, first reading of bills. Member from Yellowknife Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I give notice that on Thursday, February 22nd, 2024, I will present to the House Bill 1, an act to amend the Legislative Assembly and Executive Council Act, to be read for the first time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, member from Yellowknife Centre. Notice of motions for first reading of bills. Notice of motion for first reading of bills. First reading of bills. First reading of bills. Second reading of bills. Second reading of bills. Consideration in committee of the whole and other matters. Minister Statement 4-20 brackets 1. Minister Statements 5-20 brackets 1. Table documents 13-20 brackets 1. Table documents 20-20 brackets 1. Table documents 29-21 with the member from Toonaday Willie in the chair.
Of the whole to order. What is the wish of committee?
I'd like to consider interim estimates, operations expenditures, April 1st, June 30th, 2024.
Thank you. Does the committee agree? Thank you, committee. We will proceed with the first item. Open the House will... At this time, we'll take a short break, 15-minute break, and we'll come back. Thank you. We're ready to start. Under the B10. Order. Okay. Thank you. Committee, we have agreed to consider table documents 13-20 brackets 1. Interim estimates operating expenditures April 1st to June 30, 2024. Minister, please proceed with your opening remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I am happy to be presenting this afternoon table document 13-20 bracket 1, interim estimates, operation expenditures, April 1st to June 30th, 2024 for the Government of the Northwest Territories. The interim estimates will allow public services to continue to be provided until the main estimates for the fiscal year have been fully debated and approved by the Legislative Assembly. The estimates propose a total appropriation of $782 million for operations between April 1st and June 30th, 2024, and $1.3 billion in borrowing for the GNWT for the 2024-25 fiscal year. The last few years have been difficult for Northerners. Flooding, drought, wildfire events, and the global pandemic have negatively impacted the government's financial capacity. In response to these challenges, the GNWT has updated its fiscal responsibility policy to strengthen transparency and accountability, especially by linking the policy to the federally imposed borrowing limit, by requiring a $120 million cushion below the borrowing limit. In addition to this, our government renewal initiative continues to build a culture within the public service to maximize efficiency and value for money, and aims to ensure that the GNWT does the right things at the right time in the right way. The recently announced fiscal strategy of the 20th Legislative Assembly outlines the realities of the Territorial's fiscal situation and sets some significant targets to help support the Territory's economic recovery through the life of the 20th Legislative Assembly. The strategy represents our commitment to the Territory's financial health and stability, not just for us, but for future generations. These interim estimates will allow departments to integrate the priorities established by this Legislative Assembly into their 24-25 business plans and main estimates, which I will be bringing forward during the next sitting of the Legislative Assembly. This concludes opening remarks. I would be happy to answer questions members may have.
Thank you, Minister. Does the Minister of Finance wish to bring a witness into the House?
Tamna ikayokte khakpa iglumun isiutinearait. Iglok pakpang isiutinearait. Kuyanok. Ukota ikayoktingik. Bill McKay. Terence Coutre. Ikayoktingik. Range Lake, Quayanok, Tapwat Malao Taliut Nakwarinilka, Tabra, Quayanok. Apikrohik pat Inuit. Embalate, minihitat.
Thank you. The committee will continue with the Department of Education, Culture, and Employment. Are there any questions? Oh, sorry. Yeah, I think I'll go to Shauna Morgan, member of Yellowknife North.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, my question is around funding for early learning and childcare. I know that the department is still trying to work out a new funding mechanism for early childhood partners. And that will require some upfront payments to childcare providers by the end of the first quarter. And so given that my understanding is that this is still not settled yet, the new funding mechanism is in flux, can the government give us any reassurance of how they know that the estimates here will be enough to make sure that we can keep our childcare providers operating and afloat, given the new funding?
Kanutun manikakpita kanok ikayoktit ikayokluit kinak. Quite
Not including any potential changes that may come, as a result of the priority setting or other initiatives that would be part of the budget that's going forward in May and June. But there certainly is, this will give them the opportunity to at least begin their work as of April 1st. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go back to the member of Yellowknife North.
Yellowknife North. We've got
I'm going to go to the Finance Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is based at this moment on the agreement as it stands with Canada. I can't speak to what discussions or whether discussions are ongoing with Education, Culture, and Employment, but just that at this point, this is based on the agreement as it is. Thank you.
We'll go back to member of Yellowknife North.
Okay, that's all the questions I have at this moment for around Education, Culture, and Employment. I assume there'll be an opportunity to return when we get to other departments. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any further questions from members? Don't see any hands. Okay, so summary of interim estimates, item 2, Education, Culture, and Employment Appropriation Authority required $127,721,000. Does the committee agree? Thank you. Your committee will continue with the Department of Environment and Climate Change. Is there any questions? Yes, I'm going to go to member of Grace Lave.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was wondering if, similar to my colleague from Yellowknife North's question around ECE, if the dollars for wildlife and forest management are based on previous contracts for fire suppression, aviation contracts, that sort of thing from the previous year, or if there are increases. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. We'll go to the Finance Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, contract dollars are, so there's the department amount that's coming in as a percentage of the annual budget from 23-24, but the remaining, but their contract amounts are coming in at full value, which is going to allow departments to enter into contracts that will last potentially for the full year, assuming further approval by the Legislative Assembly. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Going to go back to the member of Griesleaf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess I'll rephrase what I guess I'm trying to seek.
Kan kigalok tunga ulan kanok tam na contract nik tay hugay ta kanok maning nik atunek atukonek pat kanutun. Mr. Guthrie. Mr. Guthrie. I can't speak.
Dollars are being represented in these interim estimates as for a full year, which is fine and dandy. I'm just curious if that contract amount for fire suppression, such as aviation contracts, has increased for this year compared to the last. Thank you.
Go to Mr. Petrilli.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There's no increase anticipated in the contract value that's being proposed in the interim estimates, but I can confirm that the full value of the contract is being reflected here for consideration. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. We'll go back to member Griesleaf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's okay.
Is there any other members, Mr. member from the Yellowknife Centre?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll just be brief. I think if I understood the member correctly, I think she was curious if it included the forced growth cost reflective of certain contracts, and I think that's ultimately the question that was being asked. And then I have a clear, separate follow-up. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to the Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So no, Mr. Chair, at this point, there's no increases to the contracts amounts. These are amounts that are based on 23-24. Any changes that would be potentially made, whether through forced growth initiatives or otherwise, would be reflected in the full main estimates, which would be tabling in May and June.
Yellowknife Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The further qualification to the overall thing is this is a 90-day estimate or interim estimate, and maybe for the public sense and on the record, that is, and we'll just say by way of example, the Assembly doesn't support the contract or initiative called the Widget. I'm not going to pick on anyone in particular because we don't want anyone to get the wrong message here. So if the Assembly chose to support the Widget initiative that happens to currently be in the 90-day proposal, but we decide to vote against and delete it in at say the advancement of the mains in May, June, what would happen in that particular case, just so the public understands that we're passing an interim, but if there's further reflection on business moving forward. Thank you.
I want to go to the Finance Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I think this actually often does come up in asking why we can't do multi-year contracts or multi-year funding agreements. Every appropriation is a year-over-year appropriation for the government. So in other words, we get the ability to spend public dollars only based on 1 year at a time, approved here by the Legislative Assembly. So when we come forward in May, June, if the Legislative Assembly decides not to approve something that in this interim period we had proceeded with based on past activities or past practice, then those contribution agreements usually include or have to include a line that says, subject to the approval of the House. So it can at that time, again, we now have the ability to enter these contracts, but it's always subject to the approval of the House. So if members of the House were to decide that they wanted something removed, that it is still possible that that provision can be enacted to say that something wouldn't come forward. To be honest, though, I will also sort of a bit of assurance to the public and to the partners that we have. That does rarely happen. Generally, contracts and contribution agreements are with providers of services out in the public, and it's not usually where I've seen that occur. But again, it certainly is. It's at the will of this House, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Member of Yellowknife Centre. No further questions. Any further members that want to? I don't see anybody. Okay, I'm going to continue on. Summary of interim estimates, items 3, Environmental and Climate Change Appropriation Authority required $57,282,000. Does the committee agree? Thank you. Committee will continue with the Department of Executive and Indigenous Affairs. And are there any questions? Don't see any. I'll continue on. Summary of interim estimates, item 4, Executive and Indigenous Affairs Appropriation Authority required $6,715,000. Does the committee agree? Thank you. Committee will continue with the Department of Finance. Turning to page 3, are there any questions? Don't see any hands up. Summary of interim estimates, item 5, Finance Appropriation Authority required $97,645,000. Does the committee agree? Thank you. Committee will continue with the Department of Health and Social Services. Any questions? Thank you. I'll go to the member from Yellowknife North.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I know that the purpose of this interim budget is to keep the lights on, keep core operations going. And in terms of health and social services, some of our essential services that we provide to our vulnerable populations, some of them we provide directly through the Department of HSS, such as our day shelter here in town, and those operations will continue. And as we've seen, it's much more expensive to run it in-house. So instead, we often contract out some of these essential services to nonprofits and agencies. So one example of this is the Yellowknife Women's Society currently runs the Spruce Bough Transitional Housing Facility with harm reduction programs and the Women's Society was recently informed that the current funding that they're receiving just for operations, to keep the lights on, so to speak, is actually ending March 31st. And I know that it was it's ending because it was obtained through federal funding that was COVID related, and that's coming to an end. However, this facility, which provides essential services to a vulnerable population, is in danger of not being able to keep the lights on as of March 31st. And so I'm wondering first if the Department of Finance or others have been able to find at least some interim funding past March 31st to help keep the lights on in this facility, or if it would be possible to add a little bit of money into the interim estimates to, again, keep the lights on at the Spruce Bough. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for your question. I'm going to go to Minister Wozniak.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Mr. Chair, I have good news and bad news. The good news is departments will now have their funding as of April 1st for at least a portion of the year to go about their business. And certainly to the extent that a department may find that it is this is providing a program or a service that they can't otherwise contract out or can't otherwise, see another path forward on, that they may well be able to find that funding. They will now have funding as of April 1st. Without the interim estimates, they don't have an appropriation as of April 1st. So that's the good news. The longer term, though, in terms of what this funding might look like, or going forward, what the structure of the services, who should be providing, should it be contract, all of those decisions, those are longer conversations and bigger decisions, part of business planning for the departments, between housing and health and social services. And indeed, to the extent that there may be an initiative that gets brought forward, again, that too would fall under the work that will happen now that we have priorities and can move forward to having a mandate. So that's a fairly long question. I apologize, Mr. Chair, but again, the interim estimates aren't meant to necessarily be around a new initiative or extending of an initiative, but really are sort of a keeping lights on. But keeping the lights on, again, does include providing those core services and operations, whether it's under housing or health and social services. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Rosnick. I'm going to go to Member Yonge North.
Yeah, and I understand this may not be able to be resolved today, but I think it speaks to sort of a dilemma we have that, this is not a new initiative or like a temporary initiative. It's at the moment keeping 26 people housed that otherwise would be on the street. And yeah, I guess I'll leave that for now, but just wanting to put out that in the future, I think we need to reconsider how we fund services like this that I think we would all agree are essential, and sometimes we do in-house and sometimes contract out, but very much take for granted that there are volunteers and nonprofits in our communities who will sort of hold that safety net. I did have one more question about health and social services and the interim budget. I'm wondering if, to address the anticipated high demand for health services, and as we know, we have ever-rising costs as we rely on agency nurses and locum doctors, as we were just talking about. I'm wondering if further contingency is required for the Department of Health and Social Services around compensation and benefits to ensure that we will have appropriate staffing just over the interim for the next few months.
Thank you. I'll take that as general comments. And I'm going to continue on. Any further comments from members? I don't see any. I want to, committee, we will return to the summary of interim estimates. Item 5, finance. For official Hansard records, the appropriation authority required $95,645,000. Does the committee agree? Okay, thank you. Summary of interim estimates. Item 6, health and social services. Appropriation authority required $201,071,000. Does committee agree? Thank you. Committee will continue with the Department of Industry and Tourism and Investment. Are there any questions? Okay, thank you. No hands are up. Summary of interim estimates. Item 7, Industry, Tourism and Investment Appropriation Authority required $24,073,000. Does committee agree? Thank you. Committee, we will continue with the Department of Infrastructure. Is there any questions? No hands up, I don't see. I'll continue on. Summary of interim estimates. Item 8, Infrastructure. Appropriation authority required $110,446,000. Does committee agree? Thank you. We will continue with the Department of Justice. Turning to page 4. Is there any questions? Don't see any hands up. Thank you. Summary of interim estimates, item 9, Justice Appropriation Authority required $56,259,000. Does committee agree? Thank you. Committee, we will continue with the Department of Municipal and Community Affairs. Is there any questions? No questions, I'll continue on. Summary of interim estimates, item 10, Municipal and Community Affairs Appropriation Authority required $97,313,000. Does committee agree? Thank you. Now we will move on to the operation expenditure. Total appropriation authority required $782 million. Sorry, $782,345,000. Does the committee agree? Thank you, committee. Now moving on to page 5, Schedule 2, borrowing. Borrowing plan for the government reporting entity and established borrowing limits for the government of the Northwest Territories. Total government borrowing established limits per 2024-2025 Appropriation Act, $1,315,826,000. Does the committee agree? Okay. Thank you. Does the committee agree that they concludes the consideration of table document 13-20 brackets 1, interim estimates operation expenditure April 1 to June 30th, 2024? Members will say agreed. Okay. Sorry. Okay, sorry. Okay, thank you. Now, I'll pass this on to the member from Boot Lake, Mr. Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I move that consideration of table document 13-21 interim estimates operations expenditures April 1st to June 30th, 2024 be now concluded, and that table document 13-21 be reported and recommended as ready for further consideration in formal session through the form of an appropriation bill. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take it. The motion is in order. To the motion. Question has been called. All those in favor? Hands up. All those opposed? Hands up. The motion is carried. If okay. Table documents 13-20 brackets 1 will be reported as ready for consideration in the formal session through the form of appropriation bill. And I'm going to take this time to thank Minister Wozniak, Mr. Petrelli, and Mr. McKay for being here today. Merci. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the chair rise and report progress.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. There's a motion on the floor to report progress. The motion is in order and non-debatable. All in favor? All those in favor? All those opposed? If carried, sorry, motion carried. I will now rise and report progress.
just read the script.
Today, Willity.
Mr. Speaker, your committee has been considering table documents 13-20 brackets 1 interim estimates operation expenditure. That the consideration of table documents 13-20 brackets 1 is concluded and that the House concur in those estimates as amended and that an appropriation bill to be based therein and introduced without delay. And Mr. Speaker, I move that the report of the Committee of the Whole be concurred with. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, member. Do I have a seconder? Denny, member from Boot Lake. The motion is in order and non-debatable. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstention. The motion has been carried and the report of the Committee of the Whole has been concurred with. Reporting the Committee of the Whole. Reporting Committee of the Whole. Reading third bills, or third reading the bills. Third reading the bills. Order of the day, Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Orders of the day for Wednesday, February 21st, 2024, 1:30 p.m. Prayer, minister statements, member statements, returns to oral questions 62-20 bracket 1. Recognition of visitors in the gallery, acknowledgements, oral questions, returns to written questions, replies to the Commissioner's address. Petitions, reports of committees on the review of bills, reports of standing and special committees. Tabling of documents. Notices of motion. Motions. Notices of motion for first reading of bills, second reading of bills, consideration in committee of the whole of bills and other matters, Minister Statement 4-20 bracket 1, Minister Statement 5-20 bracket 1, Table Document 28-20 bracket 1, Table Document 29-20 bracket 1, Report of Committee of the Whole, third reading of bills, orders of the day. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. This House stands adjourned until Wednesday, February 21st, 2024 at 1:30 p.m.